All right, let's get the party started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zinnia Field Talk and Tacos. In this webinar summer series, you join us for an insightful discussion as we uncover practical solutions and strategies to accelerate revenue velocity, as well as cultivate long-lasting customer relationships. My name is Raoul Hingle. I'm the Vice President of Growth and Strategy here at Zinnia. Today, I'm sitting down with Doug McCullen, Zinnia Vice President of Sales for Europe. And the topic for our discussion, a very important topic, is how to streamline admin work and empower real-time data collection for transformational change. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Raoul. Good to be here.
So before we start, let me do a quick introduction of my colleague, Doug, here, right? Doug is a man of few words, so he wouldn't want to do his own introduction. So Doug, he's, as I said, he's the Vice President of Sales here. And he's based out of UK. Doug's expertise in sales management, cloud SaaS solutions, general management, field services, business development, telecommunications, cable, broadcast, and I can keep going on and on and on. But with a lot of focus on early stage companies and high tech companies, all of these expertise, they make him a sought after expert in this field. He's also known for inspiring audiences with his belief in the power of collaboration and his genuine care for the welfare of his colleagues. So that was a short introduction for Doug. Otherwise, I would spend 15 minutes just on introducing Doug.
So very fun. Thank you.
So Doug, in this session, I want to explore two crucial topics with you, and these can shape the success of any company's digital transformation journey. First, we want to delve into the significance of a human-centered change management approach. And secondly, we want to shed some light on the role of agile sprints in incorporating field feedback during the digital transformation journey. All right. So with the first question I want to ask you, right? How does taking a human-centered change management approach lead to higher adoption in the field?
I must admit that I sort of struggle with it, what the difference between good old change management is and human-centered change management is. A little bit like, now COVID used to be like had a very good brand for flu, let's say, brand name for flu, but now people just get the flu, it seems. But anyway, but I'm sure someone can set me straight. I'm pretty sure all transformation projects that I've been involved in recognize that there has to be a human in the equation, let's say, and the need to involve and gain buy-in from the people that are impacted by the solutions that you're trying to implement to transform your business. So I think, the key thing for me when we talk about human-centered really is, it's almost summarized in one word, which is listen. And quite often transformation projects over the years, and I came from an engineering background as well, so developing software solutions for longer than I care to remember the bio, longer than the bio even went there, Raoul. But I think that that is the key thing here, is that quite often changes were driven in the past by let's say constraints in the technology and inability to move forward with those, and that situation is obviously changing now with a more modern and configurable ways of doing things, but still the need to listen to people is there. And I think there are many, let's say, methodologies for how you would do that. One that we talked about in the last seminar was design thinking and how you can solicit input from the field during that process, let's say. So both the field and the back office, of course. With human-centered change, you're guided by organizational goals and KPIs, of course, but to achieve them, they need to gain the hearts and minds of those who are involved at the heart of the change. And so all the elaborate plans in the world aren't worth anything unless people buy into what's being done. So in field service, I guess, summarize the last few decades, let's say last 2 decades at least, has been on how to achieve efficiencies and reduce costs. Has been a huge focus in field service. Maybe now it's more based on revenue, let's say, but it really had to do with how can a company optimize travel, do more with less people, and basically try to take cost out of the business, give the engineers more jobs to do during the day, and end up being more productive as a result. So doing more with less, and the field engineers in this process, I think, and I can say this, sort of guilty maybe in a way, but to a large extent, it has been ignored. They give them a job, get them to do it fast, and then get them back on the road again. And that's kind of been the focus, really. Maybe some people would, disagree with that, but I think, that's largely been the case, is that the mobile device that an engineer uses is more to just drive them, through the day as quickly and efficiently as possible, which is definitely a goal. But I think things have changed a little bit, and with human-centered management, it's really, I guess you could say, it's a gateway to enabling your largest single organization in your company. Your field services can be quite large, and maybe the largest single group, to not only become more productive, but give them the tools that allow them to do the job better, and help them become more energized about the work that they're doing, to the point where they become brand representatives, let's say. So make the job something that's more enjoyable, if possible. So increasing adoption in field service is critical to achieving those transformational goals, and human-centered change needs to be something that, let's say, involves the field engineers in the process rather than pose work standards on them. And only by involving them, can a company truly understand where those opportunities to improve service delivery lie, but also engage the engineering community. So I'd say, what do we know about engineers? Well, engineers like fixing things. They don't like filling in forms. When they need help, they want to get it, and they want it to be easy to get it. So they want to be able to get back again to doing what they like to do, which is fix things. And they don't want to be told how to do things when they already know how to do them. So, some parts of change management have been, imposing tasks and activities and things, dependencies that people need to fill in to get a job done. And a lot of engineers don't like that kind of thing. So I think, they have to be absolutely involved in this, and getting those representatives, key representatives in the field, the skeptics, whoever, ensures that you can factor this into your digital transformation plan. But more importantly, maybe you secure their patronage in the whole change process.
Right.
So that's a kind of long way of saying, listen and incorporate the learnings.
I love it. Right. At the beginning, you mentioned that you don't know the difference between old style change management and human-centered change management. I think you answered the question yourself, right? And to summarize, there are two pillars of any change management, which is training and adoption, right? And I come from a management consulting background. We were always taught that it is the adoption that is the biggest key in all change management, right? And that is where the human centricity lies, right? Because you can have the best process out there, but if there's no adoption, the process will fail. You can have a simplistic process that might not meet all of the requirements, but that gets adopted first, and that can lead to better results, right? So that's where the human centricity comes in. And thanks for elaborating on that. The other aspect that you touched on briefly is the importance of listening, because it is never a single sure shot thing. You have to keep iterating, and you have to learn along the way. And that's what is leading to my next question for you, right? Which is, because you have to keep iterating. So think of it in terms of the agile way. So how can agile sprints help in incorporating field feedback in order to overcome objections during a company's digital transformation journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me just start by explaining what I think an agile sprint is, and hopefully it aligns with what everybody else is thinking. But sort of as opposed to a long duration project where all requirements are gathered up front and the endpoint is defined, let's say, by achieving all of those requirements, This is kind of the traditional way of developing and delivering software. Projects took months, even years to do, until you actually saw something come out. And it worked, obviously, because this is, most of these systems are still in place and supporting businesses today. But challenge was that even if you were able to deliver all the business requirements, by the time you went live, the business had obviously changed in months, now weeks maybe, and business change is accelerated tremendously over the years. So by the time you went live, business changed. Requirements that you thought were key became redundant, and or maybe the business changed
adapted
along the way, and you had to then go figure, get more critical requirements added to make the solution even viable. So that was maybe a problem with, let's say, the waterfall approach and the way things were done in the past. Another problem, though, is that the end users of the solution really had no visibility of the end solution until the end of the project. So months or years into a project would be the first time that they would actually be able to see it, touch it, and evaluate, the suitability of it. And by that time, it was probably too late because it was already done. So Agile is just a modern approach to software development. It breaks down the solution delivery into short, let's say, repeatable stages, phases that can last anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. I know ours are 2 weeks sprints. Each sprint has a specific measurable outcome. And when it's done, the sprint gives you, provides evidence of progress, but more importantly, it gives you something tangible to evaluate. So in field service, this could mean that the engineer has an opportunity to try out a mobile app and give feedback on usability, for instance. Instead of waiting months, they can actually see something in 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then they can start to give you feedback. And this has a twofold benefit. One is obviously that feedback and knowing, the changes that you might need to make on the product, but also the second benefit, maybe more importantly, is the increased engagement that you get with the end user. So that you gain more buy-in from them because you've given them the ability to evaluate it. So I can think of an example where we did a sprint, for instance, and walked through the engineering app with one of the more experienced field engineers, and they said that one of the tasks in the list, required them to type information that they felt would, that we could probably condense down into 3 options. So very, very easy change to make in our low-code, no-code environment. We just shrink it down to a choice of 3 options, and they just push a button and they can have, wet, oily, dirty fingers and still, get the job done instead of having to type, for instance. So those kinds of things are made possible by the technologies. And maybe another example I can think of is, with the back office and dispatchers and the way they manage when there's a Jeopardy or SLA failure coming up, let's say, traditionally, they've looked at Gantt charts and they've waited till something turned red, and then they knew that there was a problem, some job was in jeopardy, and they had to go fix it. But they had to find a solution for it. So they would chase, down who would be the next engineer. Maybe they could pass the job to somebody else so the SLA wouldn't fail. So that takes time and that takes effort from the dispatcher, but it's something that can be fully automated. We have something that, rather than simply giving a visual cue that there's a problem, we have a solution, and we have a process that pops up the issue, and a dispatcher just pushes a button and accepts the recommendation that our engine provides to move the job from Fred to Samantha, and it's just done by the click of a button, and the dispatchers can then focus on other problems that require more of their experience and their intelligence, rather than chasing this issue. So
excellent. I really like that examples, the examples that you gave as well, right? And see, continuing along this line of thought, right? Typically, what we have seen is that digital transformation is usually driven by operations or customers, and it is often reactionary. That is, you're solving 1 or 2 particular problems at any given time, right? And that's what you even with the typical change management, it is one thing that you're trying to solve. I think the future state for any company, the holy grail would be to drive a culture of continuous innovation driven transformation, right? So that you don't have to wait next 1 year or 2 years for the next release or the next process to come out, right? You can adapt on the fly. So in your opinion, how can companies drive this culture of continuous innovation driven transformation?
So first off, it's a cultural shift, really, because it's continuous transformation you need to have a culture where people feel that their feedback and ideas are going to be listened to. So that's sort of where it all starts. If you don't have this and people they give up, they feel they don't have any power to change anything, and their input is invaluable. So it's a waste of time, their time to care, let's say. So when that happens, the next challenge is that, when you have the cultural shift, is you find that maybe you open the floodgates. It's another challenge, but you have too many good ideas, for instance. So how do you prioritize them all? I don't know. I suppose companies each have their own processes for doing that, but it's important to make sure that the ideas that are coming in are not stifled and that those needs are not ignored, so they become part of this consideration and let's say prioritization process. Probably the biggest technical barrier for implementing change is untangling legacy applications and in your IT estate, let's say, and delivering steady improvements into your business. And again, I suppose with a platform or low code, no code approach, such as the one we have, you can make agile changes around the edges, let's say, without having to necessarily change core processes. You come back and you can do that as your systems evolve and everything else, but you can find solutions that enable you to make that sort of agile change while you're sorting out the plumbing, let's say, and some of the old systems. And some of those changes just keep the shop lights on, let's say, but others allow you to kind of be able to take forward steps. It's really kind of it's a confidence thing. When people trust that they're being listened to and they see evidence of agile change, they're more willing to contribute more, and they're more open-minded to embrace the changes that you're putting in.
Yeah. Excellent. And thank you for that, Doug. By the way, Doug, we have a question from one of our attendees. Do you mind if I ask that first? Because otherwise on this topic, we can continue discussing for the next 1 hour.
Yeah. Sure. Go
Awesome.
for it.
So, firstly, thanks to our audience for raising the hand and asking a question. So, Doug, the question is that we struggle with change management for our field workers since they are remote and they're not very flexible to adopt new processes and technologies. It's very difficult to bring them back into the office and do proper training. Do you have any guidance on this?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose everyone's different. Some learn quicker than others. Some are more set in their ways. For instance, some need to be motivated more than others. And when people are working remotely, there is that sort of isolation from the rest of the company they may feel, let's say. So communication's is key, obviously. We sit with field teams to hear their feedback and try to find out what they think the barriers to change are, and you get good feedback from that. But we can do things along the way, to help them adopt new processes. Let's say by adding additional steps in a workflow, maybe that one engineer with a certain level of experience may not need to see, but then others who are still learning, apprentices or whatever, they would receive a different set of tasks based on their skill sets or accreditations, and that would help them kind of walk through a workflow and understand what they need to do and help guide them. And as they become more competent, then you can start to remove those things, you upgrade their skill level, and they can just get on with the day. But again, it's just about getting that engagement and trust up front. Make sure you absolutely make sure you follow up with people to know that they're being listened to.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that was a very practical solution that you gave. So Doug, we are at the end of our time. At this point, I want to express my gratitude to you and also for all of our audience for joining and engaging in our conversation. I hope that this summer series has been beneficial to everyone. For our audience, you can access all the discussions on our YouTube channel. It is under Zinnia. We would love if you could subscribe to our channel as well. And we look forward to you joining us for the next webinar.